Boxing on DAZN, sponsored by William Hill.
Welcome back to Phoenix, Arizona at the Footprint Center for Beyond the Bell as the crowd files out of the Footprint Center after witnessing a truly special performance from Bam Rodriguez in our main event, knocking out Juan Francisco Estrada to claim the Ring Magazine Super Flyweight title. Corey Erdman, Chris Mannix, and a pair of world champions here with us in Sergio Mora and Barry Jones. Guys, I'm sure we all feel the same way. We are humbled to have witnessed what we saw in the ring there. Bam Rodriguez turning in a special performance beyond what we could have even hoped for.
I'm not humbled as much as astonished at this point. I'm not surprised that Bam Rodriguez won because Estrada is on the back end of his career. I'm surprised that he dominated in the way that he did. We've seen this guy beat Carlos Cuadras. We've seen him beat Srisakat Sorungbasai, two legends from a previous era. This was as comprehensive a beating as Bam had laid down during this run of his. He took the power shots to Gallo Estrada, landed 40% through the first round, 50% overall, and he was just landing with accuracy, with power. Gallo Estrada has been beaten before. He has never been this dominated before.
Yeah, and Sergio, you know, this was, if you take away the knockdown, this was a thoroughly dominant performance from Bam Rodriguez, but sustaining that knockdown and coming back, it makes this performance more cinematic. It makes it even more special.
It was an incredible pound-for-pound performance, Corey. I mean, it's amazing. You're not supposed to do this against great fighters. You're supposed to have great moments and maybe show that you're younger, but you don't knock them out the way you do when you're coming up in weight. This was a one-sided beatdown, and even when Bam got put on the floor, he got up with a smile on his face. Like, okay, I want some more. I wanted to go through that fire and pass the test. Bam Rodriguez entered the pound-for-pound top 10 before this fight. Now he cracked the top 5 pound for pound, in my opinion. That was an incredible performance, and he's doing it on the elite level. He beat down Cuadras, he knocked out Sorungbasai, he beat down Sonny Edwards, a champion, and now he beat down another champion in a higher weight class and a legend in Gallo Estrada. We're watching greatness in the making.
Yeah, you mentioned he got up with a smile on his face after that knockdown. Barry, there were times early in this fight when I looked over at you and there was a smile on your face just watching Bam Rodriguez operate. A fighter, you know, as a fighter watching a fighter like that, what are those intricacies that you're seeing?
The kid's a Jedi. I just thought, isn't he? He sees things before they happen. Like anticipation is the greatest thing you can have in sport. He has it. Like he sees, he moves his feet in the position to know where the shot's going to land. He knows I just got to go there and I'm going to land. Against someone like Estrada, who can react better than most other fighters, he still had time to do his work. It was phenomenal. Estrada, of course, was competitive because he's a great fighter. But if that wasn't Estrada in there, that went 3 rounds maximum, I think.
Sure.
That was a performance of all performances. I thought, like me and Chris both picked Bam to stop Estrada, but I think it was the same feeling as I had. It was going to be late, and Estrada was going to be in the fight. It wasn't. That was just a dominant performance of massive proportions. Like, if anyone near his weight will just not mention Bam's name, he doesn't exist. If I was his boxing, I'd fight anybody. We all would fight anybody. But I would want so much money to fight him. You would. And anyone who says they wouldn't, they're lying. He might have priced himself out of any other fight ever with that performance.
I mean, I would obviously love to see him against the winner of Ioka Martinez, but Chris, you were talking to El Gallo inside the ring. He is adamant that he wants that rematch, that he's contractually obligated to. Isn't it hard to imagine the fight going differently after what we saw in the ring there tonight?
Well, put yourself in Gallo Estrada's mind, right? Like, he lost to Carlos Cuadras and he came back and beat him. He lost to Srisakat Sorungbasai and he came back and beat him. So in his mind, when he loses, he avenges those losses. But a loss like this, I don't even know if it's a word. I think it's unavengeable. I think at this point, I just think the way Bam Rodriguez beat him it's impossible to imagine a scenario where Estrada makes adjustments that have him coming out victorious. Maybe he moves around a little bit more, makes himself more elusive in the next fight. Maybe he takes Bam a little more seriously. I do think there was something to the kind of overconfidence Estrada had coming into this fight because he didn't believe that Bam's win over Quadras and Sarungvisai were all that impressive. Maybe all those things are true, but that's a special talent in there, and I just don't see this version of Gallo Estrada beating it.
Sergio, we touched on this prior to the main event, but now looking back at it, and Bam said that Chocolatito didn't tell him anything specifically about Estrada. I don't know whether I believe that or not, but looking at what we saw there, how beneficial do you think it was having those rounds against Chocolatito as he's preparing for someone like Estrada?
You know, whenever you're dealing with young fighters and champions, whenever you get the confidence and the encouragement of great fighters and you actually share the ring with them, you actually pick things up. Maybe not punching or style or anything like that, but you were in there with a great and you held your own. That's what you bring to the table, confidence, something that you can't get. It's earned, and he goes through that fire against great champions. Even though it's sparring, you still did it. You still did it against someone that did it against everybody, a king. So, yeah, the confidence was through the roof, and it showed tonight.
Well, whether it's Estrada next, whether it's Ioka or Martinez or Kosei Tanaka, I mean, I'm game for absolutely anything. But, Chris, you're determined to make Bam
I'm glad you brought this up, Corey. I'm glad you brought this up because we know Chris Mannix as a writer, but what, a promoter now? Chris Mannix promotion? Why are you so adamant about him going up 2 weight classes to fight a monster in Inoue?
Because it's the biggest fight in these smaller weight classes, and both these guys are peaking at this time. Bam Rodriguez, a world champion again at 115 pounds, and that man, the monster, the undisputed champion at 122 pounds. And yeah, Inoue is the bigger man right now, but let's not forget, just like Bam Rodriguez, he started down at 108 pounds. He worked his way up to this weight class, 115 pounds. It was just a couple of years ago that he won the undisputed championship at 118 pounds. Let's not act like this is a featherweight coming down to 122. This is a guy who's roughly the same height as Bam Rodriguez, and in about a year is probably going to be right around the same size. Look, if I'm going to Inoue, I'm staying at 122. 126 is boring. There's nothing good up at 126 that entertains anybody across the world. Bam versus the monster is one of the biggest fights in boxing you can make, full stop. So whether it's 2 fights down the line, 3 fights down the line, I want to see Bam Inoue, and you guys are lying.
I'm sold.
If you tell me you don't either.
I'm sold.
You're sold, even with a 7-pound jump.
I think. Well, be honest. As Bam got maturity when he's boxing, he was the most mature man in that interview because he said to Chris, "I know it takes time to get there, so he needs that time, and in that time, Inoue might move up. I hope he doesn't, but I think Bam will be destined for that. But to put that weight on sensibly will take a lot of time."
You heard Bam Rodriguez say it's a dream fight. Dream. Wake up, Chris Mannix. It's not going to happen. That fight may be salivating to fans, but as a boxer coming down in weight, going that much in weight, it's dangerous. I just think right now 118 is the best move.
But imagine.
Imagine, dream. Come on now, Corey, put him into place.
Hold on. This is what makes you a terrible matchmaker and a boring potential television executive. You wouldn't have wanted Manny Pacquiao to go up and fight Oscar De La Hoya. You wouldn't have wanted Usyk to dare to be great and fight Anthony Joshua like 3 fights into his heavyweight career. These are great fights. Let's make it happen now.
It's fun to dream. It's fun to dream, isn't it? And we've got some dream fights coming your way here on DAZN in the coming weeks and the coming months. You take a look at our calendar coming up. Jaron Ennis will now defend his IBF welterweight title against David Avanesyan on July 13th in Philly. Jake Paul returns to the ring against the UFC vet and BKFC star Mike Perry. And the big fights keep coming with a stacked Riyadh season card. August 3rd in LA, Bud Crawford, Israel Madrimov for the WBA and WBO interim world super welterweight titles. And speaking of Riyadh season, it's coming to London, to Wembley Stadium for a huge September showdown. Saturday the 21st, Anthony Joshua versus Daniel Dubois. And we thank everyone for tuning in here tonight for a spectacular night in Phoenix, Arizona. And just a reminder that we are back July 6th for a doubleheader of boxing as Johnny Fisher takes on Alan the Savage Babbage, and William Zepeda looks to continue his win streak as he ascends towards world championship opportunities.
His punch output is incredible. I've never seen anything like it. He's a fighter who wears you out and just keeps coming and just doesn't stop. It's pretty impressive.
William Zepeda is back. Giovanni Cabrera!
Zepeda's definitely the real deal.
This is Mexican-style boxing at its highest level.
Boxing on DAZN, sponsored by William Hill.